Brennan got the bag.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast live from Studio K, presented by our friends over at Circle K. I'm your host, Damon Fairall, a.k.a. Damon Dog. He's my co-host, Kevin Thomas, a.k.a. Kevo Post. We are live from PHNX HQ3 in downtown Phoenix, and we are, of course, presented by our presenting sponsor of Branded Bills. Head on over to brandedbills.com, use promo code BBPHNX, and get 15% off your first order of the premium headwear and apparel in the game, especially for Arizona Wildcats fans. Again, that's BBPHNX. You can get 15% off your first order, but I don't think that Brennan's given out any discounts, Kevin, on his extension that he just signed for the foreseeable future, locking him up through 2030. We're going to get into that Brennan extension. Doege, Gonzales also being extended and what it means for Arizona football. We also got Big 12 content creator Chancellor Johnson joining the show in just a few moments. We're going to be talking to him about just this Big 12 season thus far, the gauntlet that is the Big 12 conference, what he likes from this Arizona squad, and maybe a team that he's been disappointed in throughout this Big 12 season thus far. But we can't wait to talk to Chancellor Johnson. Kevin, how are we doing today? How are we living on a Friday?
It's a fired up Friday. We got a packed show, as Damon alluded to. I know it's basketball season, and I know some of you may be like me and want to maybe just think solely about basketball right now, but we do have genuinely huge news on the football side of things that we're going to kick off the show with before we talk to Chancellor Johnson, who should be joining here in about less than 10 minutes. So let's get right into that. Damon, on a fired up Friday, let's just dive head first into the news. Brent, Brennan, Seth, Doege, Danny Gonzales all extended. Gonzales and Doege through 2028. And Brennan through 2030. And per Michael Lev, it seems like the pool of salary for the overall assistant coaching staff has been increased to the third largest in the Big 12. That feels significant, doesn't it, Damon?
Yeah, it really does. It feels like an investment being made into Arizona football here. Brennan, now his salary itself is not going to jump off the page at you. It was, in fact, one of the lower in the conferences, or in the major conferences, I should say. So I think that it allowed for Arizona to maybe go out and kind of expand their assistant coaching pool a little bit more and kind of invest into that side of things, because Brennan's coming from San Jose State. He's coming from a program that wasn't paying the big bucks, so it wasn't like, he needed a big, giant, massive salary to be, brought from San Jose State over to Tucson. So I think that, he was making in the $3 million range, had him at one of the lower Power 4 coaches in the sport. And then now this bump up in salary to get into that mid $4 million range, Kevin, is more along the lines of what you'll see in the Big 12 conference. I saw Tyler Warden tweet out that he's making now what Dave Aranda's making at Baylor. So I think, Brent Brennan is being aptly paid for about, what you would expect. Like, if he was maybe a bit more of a coveted coach, maybe he's looking at a Big 12 raise where, he's one of the highest paid guys in this conference. But instead, I think he gets more along the lines of what the rest of the coaches in this conference are making. And then you see a big salary increase, probably for Seth Doege and Danny Gonzales to keep them around at this program rather than having them find new ventures elsewhere for more money.
I think this is also huge for the overall health of the athletic program, but more specifically the football program. And we talk about it all the time, right? What follows a good season at Arizona? A bad season usually, or at least an underwhelming one. Once you have a little bit of expectation as to what could happen next year, it feels like the team lets you down. But I think that this is DRF. This is the athletic department showing interest in maintaining high-level success at Arizona. You were one win away, maybe a couple opt-outs away from a 10-win season and a quarterback with a second bowl win, which is pretty unheard of at Arizona, right? So I think that this is the school, the program investing back into itself, saying, I believe in what Brent Brennan is building here. I believe in what Seth Doege is calling on the offensive side of the thing. And most honestly, importantly, I believe that Danny Gonzales should stay here and keep one of the best defenses in the country in Tucson. So I think this is a huge coup, honestly, for the athletic program. We talked about it as soon as the season wrapped up. How soon can you lock up your OC and DC, right? Because we know Brent Brennan, I say this with literally all due respect, we know he is the vibes guy right there, right? But if you can get Seth Doege locked up, if you can get Danny Gonzales locked up, you have quite the foundation going forward to build off of, especially in the recruiting ranks, right?
I think that you see a coach like Brent Brennan and his coordinator hires are almost everything. You know, and that's no disrespect, but we saw that in year one with Brent Brennan in 2024. What did it look like when Dino Babers was the offensive coordinator?
Yeah.
It was an absolute unmitigated disaster. And so you got to avoid that. You find a guy in Seth Doege who you feel very confident in. You know, first time Seth Doege is calling plays at a Power 4 level, and he showed a lot of promise. I think that he showed Arizona fans that that's a guy that you want to stick around. Now, Danny Gonzales, a little bit of a different conversation. That guy might have, maybe should have been the Broyles Award winner, right? Like the way in which that he flipped that defense on its head from one year to the next. And it seems, we've heard it straight from Danny Gonzales' mouth, essentially. He had other opportunities to leave this program and maybe find, quote unquote, greener pastures elsewhere. But he wanted to stay in Tucson, stay with this build of this program, and live in a place that I think that him and his family are happy at. So, you get kind of a situation where both guys probably would be coveted by other programs. And you noted, Kevin, and I think this is smart. Like when you sign as a coordinator, you're typically signing a 3-year contract. These guys were brought in last season, which would sign them through 2025, 2026, 2027. This contract only extends them through 2028. So it's only a 1-year extension. It's not like you are just adding a million years onto these guys' contracts. Now, like I said, a 3-year contract for a coordinator is typical. I think that, this allots that amount of time where you're now sitting at 3 years. But I think just, as you highlighted, I think it more goes to show that the outcome here that was being desired was to give a big pay increase to these coordinators rather than lock them up for a significant period of time. Maybe unlike what Brent Brennan had happen, where he gets locked up through 2030 and gets another couple years extended onto his deal.
Yeah, I think this is a situation where, like you said, you and I were talking about this pre-show, if you're the athletic department, after year one of Brent Brennan, I think it's safe to say you're not completely sure that he's the guy for the job at that point, right?
100%.
Obviously, bringing him back shows that they had some level of faith that he could turn it around and be the guy. But after that first year, you have no way of being completely sure that he's the guy, right? But the coordinators you have brought in their first year, under their new, I guess Danny Gonzales would have a new contract if he got promoted, but the first year at the program for Seth Doege, right, they absolutely knock it out of the ballpark. But you kind of knew that was an option coming in, according to what Danny Gonzales has been able to do at his past stops as DC, according to what Seth Doege was able to do at his last stop of Marshall. These were two very promising hires at the time, right? Albeit some question marks around what Danny Gonzales was able to do with his specific position group the year prior, but that's kind of neither here nor there. Like I told you pre-show, and I'll bring it to the pod, I was like, wait, 2028? How did the contract expire? This must be a pay raise. And now, obviously, I'm not sure of the actual details of it, but it feels like this is hey, we'll give you an extra year and a couple extra X amount of dollars on top to make sure that you stay happy and you stay in Tucson. Because what are some coaches across the country moaning and complaining about when it comes to contract negotiation time? Yes, their own salary, but oftentimes it's, hey, how much can you pay my assistants to make sure that I have a good foundation under me to keep winning here? Because it's not just head coach getting the job done. It's also the position coaches. It's also you know what I mean? So making sure you have that pool is really important. I'm happy with the extensions, but I'm ecstatic about Lev's tweet about the increased assistant coaching salary pool, honestly.
Yeah, I think it goes to show that there is a commitment and investment that is being made into Arizona football. And that's all you really want to see as an Arizona football fan, right? Because we know the basketball team is going to get investment. We know Tommy Lloyd is going to find a way to make it work, even if he doesn't have the resources that maybe like a Kentucky or a Duke might have. But I think that the football program will only work if it's given resources that at least makes it middle of the pack, right? We're not expecting Arizona to go toe-to-toe with SEC schools or Big Ten schools and maybe pony up that kind of money, but you want to be competitive in your own conference. And that's what we're seeing here is the Arizona football, Arizona athletics investing to a level of being competitive in the Big 12 conference that, gives you a shot year in and year out. And then now it's up to Brent Brennan and that staff to figure things out, right? Because you do have Noah Fafita, the senior quarterback with a lot of experience. You do have, a lot of this offense in particular coming back. And you have a coordinator that made it work last season where, I don't want to call it, chicken shit, but I mean, he did make us some pretty good chicken salad out of maybe some scraps that we had left around our fridge, So I think that, that you're looking at a potential, just a triumvirate that you want to see sticking together here with Arizona football, at least for now. And you get that locked and loaded, which is good to see.
Yeah, no. And honestly, I mean, I know that Kelvin Sampson is out there, and I'm gonna bring this around to football in a second. But I know that Kelvin Sampson's out there saying, we're broke. In fact, we have no money for these 3 5-stars that we have. We have no money, actually. It's just me recruiting my ass off. But I think that it also shows that when you have both the football program and the basketball program working in tandem, like you don't hear Nate Oates. You can hear Nate Oates complaining about a lot of stuff, but I feel like he's not complaining about being able to pay LeBaron Philon. I don't think he's complaining about being able to pay Charles Bediako to come back. I don't think he's really, you know what I mean? He might complain, but it might not be valid. And I think if you have both the football and basketball programs operating in Corey said this last night, the Star Wars reference, the space universe was in balance or whatever the hell. That is where you really reap in the benefits of the local boosters and the local rich people to help get more elite talent into the city.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I like what Deborah Owen says here in the chat, that Brent Brennan cares about his staff and what they need as well. I do agree with that. I think Brent Brennan is the type of coach where he's willing to forego a little bit of salary because he knows that long term, what's best for him, what's best for his career is surrounding himself with guys that are football savants, guys like Danny Gonzales and Seth Doege that are, basically, going to make or break what his tenure at Arizona looks like, right? And I think that he probably got a little bit of that taste in a bad way early on in his first year with Dino Babers and with, Dwayne Aquina to a lesser extent, where he was like, man, I you know what? It really does matter who the guys are that are right next to me at the top, who those two individuals are. And he knocked it out of the park with Seth Doege and Danny Gonzales. It's hard to say otherwise. The OC hire took forever, if you remember. Like, Kevin and I were sitting there being like, is Fafita coming back? Because we're like weeks into the transfer portal here, and we still don't have an offensive coordinator. And how can Noah Fafita commit to a Brent Brennan-led team that he doesn't even know the OC of when Dino Babers and that whole situation happened the year before? And it just feels like they did their due diligence. They found the right guy and they brought him in. Now, Danny Gonzales already was in the building. A little bit of an easier, kind of promotion process there. But that was a risk. It was a guy who, as you noted, Kevin, didn't necessarily have the best season with his own position group the year before. Then you make him DC in a role he maybe is a little bit more comfortable in, and he just flips the defense on its head. So this is good news for Arizona football. Shows the investment, shows the level of trying to get up to being competitive with maybe some of the top Big 12 teams, especially in the assistant coach pool. And nothing to be excited or nothing to not be excited about if you're an Arizona fan here in regards to this Arizona football news. We're going to bring on Chancellor Johnson here in a short while. We're going to talk a little bit of Arizona basketball and it's just general Big 12 basketball news as well. But, Kevin, I got my softball shirt on today. Are we going to talk about that off the top of the show?
Let's do it, man. Let's talk about a little softball.
96 champions, baby. I remember it like it was yesterday when I was -3.
Man, hell yeah. They were undefeated yesterday in their opening doubleheader of the Candrea Classic.
Undefeated yesterday.
Yeah, undefeated yesterday. I mean, they played 2 games yesterday, never lost. They had 2 incredible performances. The 99th no-hitter in program history to lead it off. And, oh, yeah, it was Jalen Adams' debut that she threw the no-hitter in. The first Wildcat to throw a solo no-hitter in her debut. Absolute scenes that first game was. And then they walk it off with the 8-0 mercy rule at the end. They defeat Southern Utah in both games to open it up, but they do play Oklahoma tonight at 4 p.m. on ESPN+. So absolutely tune into that. Me and Damon will probably be locked in to that in the production office here after our show. So, yeah, incredible performance from Arizona softball yesterday. they're officially back. Addison Duke had a great day as well. So shout out to Arizona softball.
Yeah, we got games at 4, 5, and 11 a.m. the next 3 days here. 4 p.m. is the opening pitch here on the Friday game versus Oklahoma. Then, of course, Saturday at 5 p.m., Sunday at 11 a.m. Going to be a big one. Oklahoma, number 3 in the country preseason, Kevin. Coming into Tucson in one of the most difficult environments to play in all of college softball. And going to need some fan support out there to help out the Cats in getting the job done, because Oklahoma is no small task. I mean, Arizona is a ranked opponent in their own right, but when you're talking about, the teams that are truly at the elite at the top versus the teams that are maybe on the back half of the top 25, it's a lot different, right? There's a big scale to which we're talking here, and I do think that this could be the type of series that almost propels Arizona softball into having a better season than maybe what the expectation level was. And not to say that, the expectation is not winning, because the expectation for Arizona softball is always to compete at the top, right? But it doesn't feel like this team is maybe a quote-unquote title contender. And I think that you can do a lot in terms of making your fan base believe in this squad by going and getting a series win against an Oklahoma, a team that has dominated college softball over the last 10 years.
No, yeah, I totally agree with you. And also, shout out to Caitlin Lowe. It's her birthday as well. You got to get some birthday mojo out there at Hillenbrand, Damon. It's got to be a big dub for the softball squad today. It's got to get a big dub. But yeah, as you said, it's a very pivotal matchup today to really get some momentum screaming on into the season. But yeah, shout out to all the new Arizona Wildcats softball squad.
I'm pumped to have softball back, man. I really am.
It feels like a great time of year, because you're encroaching upon March Madness when softball starts at Arizona. So life is good. Life is also good for one Tetairoa McMillan, who took home Offensive Rookie of the Year honors last night at the NFL Awards. Man, shout out to T-Mac. Absolute incredible season. The first ever Arizona Wildcat to win such an honor. Damon, how are we feeling last night watching that?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely electric. It was supposed to be the guy, that always was going to do that, right? And it's incredible to watch too, because I think, when you bring in T-Mac and he's the highest rated recruit in program history, you're sitting there and you're like, what is he, like the 30th ranked recruit in the country? Like, he's somewhere around a borderline 5-star / 4-star. And for other programs, that's a flash in the pan, right? Like, there are teams like USC, like Oregon, who are like, cool, sounds good, glad we got another one. Whereas at Arizona, that's like groundbreaking stuff. It's like, oh my God, what happened? How did we get this absolute stud? How did we get the, Gatorade California Player of the Year to come to Arizona, right? And T-Mac I have a poster in our office, Kevin, it says it, and it's so damn true. Expectations were not just met. Expectations have been exceeded every single step of the way when it comes to what Tetairoa McMillan has accomplished, whether it was as a freshman in Tucson, where he was immediately an absolute, weapon for this offense the day he stepped on campus, whether it was, bringing Arizona football back to heights that, we had almost forgotten that were possible in 2023 with that Alamo Bowl win and just how good he was. And then in 2024, it didn't go the way that you wanted it to, but that was a guy that stuck it out in an era of college football in which you would expect every single player to leave in that circumstance, every single player. And if you listen to Noah Fafita tell it, it's because Tetairoa McMillan is walking into their house the day after the day of Jed Fish announcing to the program that he's leaving for Washington and saying, how are we going to get everybody to stay? Right? That's who T-Mac is. That's the type of individual that he is. And so when he wins an award like this representing our university, I think it just matters that much more, man, because truly, loyalty to a level that just really cannot be expected in a modern college football era. And yeah, shout out to T-Mac, much deserved. Led all rookies in yards, catches, touchdowns, you name it. He had the rookie lead in it. And that comes with Emeka Egbuka and the insane start to the season that he had. That dude was up there with the elite receivers in football when it came to the first month and a half of the year. And then T-Mac just slowly but surely won the race there by just being consistent all throughout. And he's a big part of the reason the Panthers, made the playoffs this year in year one. He's a big part of the reason that Bryce Young is being considered to, be a quarterback of the future rather than just a guy that we can throw to the wayside and find a new player to develop. And so, yeah, T-Mac deserved that award. anyone that, thought it was a Tyler Shuck award or a Jackson Dart award with those guys playing like half a season.
Yeah.
Enough of that. This was given to the right guy. And as you said, like first NFL offensive rookie of the year from this program, very important distinction.
True.
Because Bijan Robinson's grandfather, Paul Robinson, played for the University of Arizona, was drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals in the AFL before the AFL-NFL merger.
Wow.
And won AFL Rookie of the Year and AFL First Team All-Pro in his rookie season for the Cincinnati Bengals. So we do have an AFL Rookie of the Year in program history, but this is the first NFL Rookie of the Year that is an Arizona Wildcat. And it's got to fire you up, right?
It does. And maybe Brayden Burries will be the next Damon, but let's get to that because we do have Big 12 content creator and reporter Chancellor Johnson. Let's get Chancellor in here. How are we doing? I know the J. Cole album just dropped. My first question is, what'd you put on the grill last night, Chancellor?
Man, I had some wings. I threw some wings on the grill, plus put some fries in the air fryer as well. But nah, man, it's my second spin through. I like the first album better than the second one so far, but obviously it's a lot of bars in there, a lot of storytelling. I got to keep spinning it through, but this is certainly one of my favorite J. Cole projects. We're less than 24 hours in, it's already up there near the top for me.
Now, I know that obviously you are very familiar with all of the Big 12, and honestly, I feel like the Big 12 is spinning just as good of a tale as J. Cole is this year because the depth of this conference is unbelievable. That's where I wanted to start with. What team has really just this year made you feel good, like surprised you in a way? Because I feel like there are a couple teams that could be in that category, but just kind of to get kicked off, let's start with some positives. Who surprised you so far?
Yeah, the team I would say surprising the most is probably UCF. And, it's probably tough to say that coming off for that butt whipping they had at Houston the other day. But they beat two really good teams in the Big 12 this year and beating Kansas at home and Texas Tech. And look, as I mentioned, they just got their butt whooped by Houston. But Texas Tech, they went toe-to-toe with Houston at Houston and lost that game. And then they beat Houston a couple of weeks ago. And so UCF is a really good team. And they were a team that were picked to finish bottom of the league, and here they are competing near the top. They're on the verge of they continue down this path of making the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2019. And so what Johnny Dawkins has been able to do has been really, really impressive. They have a good group of guys there, so I'd say UCF is probably the feel-good team that I guess maybe not too many people were necessarily considering to begin the season.
Now, on the other side of that coin, Chancellor, what is a team that has disappointed you this year? Because I think I agree with you on UCF. Damon agrees with you. This podcast has been trying to tell people about UCF all year. But let's see if we align on the other side. Which team has let you down so far in the Big 12?
To me, I really think there's only one answer. It's got to be Baylor, right? Like, Baylor has so much talent on their team. You look at Cameron Carr, Tunde Yesufu, Ochai Agbim. Like, they have some really good players on that team, and they just haven't been able to figure it out. And I thought it was really telling. After they lost, it was a game before Houston. Their freshman, Tunde Yesufu, said, hey, we have to be tougher. We're simply not doing the little things, and I want to see us go out there and compete. And then the next game, they played Houston. So they had a prime opportunity to make up for it, and Houston kicked their behind. At home, in Waco, they blew them out by more than 20 points. And that's just something that you're not used to seeing where teams could just run through the Baylor Bears and a Scott Drew-led program. And so I think that's been kind of weird to see this season. They had a nice win the other day, and they had a couple of nice wins during non-conference play. And the thing is, with the Big 12, you'll always have opportunities. And so now as we turn the page here to February, and I'm sure obviously we'll talk about Arizona here and their schedule, but there's opportunities for all these teams around. Oklahoma State, who the Wildcats will play, this weekend, they had picked up a huge win over BYU at home, and now they put themselves, in a position to, have an opportunity to have an opportunity, right? And that starts with them trying to do something that no team has been able to do at all this season. That's beat Arizona. If they can combine two wins like BYU and Arizona, a road win, Anthony McKelson against Arizona, that can go a long way for their chances as well. But to answer your question, I'd probably say Baylor has disappointed me a little bit as far as some of the Big 12 teams go.
You mentioned Baylor. I want to talk a little bit about another team that I think is disappointing, and that's B-tier YU. We do our tier ranking list weekly, and we put BYU in the B tier this week. And we did this right before they lost to Oklahoma State because, frankly, the Cougars just have not been playing their best ball recently. You're looking at their recent schedule. Now, they've lost to Texas Tech, Arizona, Kansas, and Oklahoma State as well, but 4 losses in their last 5 games. What the heck is going on with BYU right now?
Well, here's the thing. Look, they're losers of 3 straight now, and then it doesn't get any easier because tomorrow the Houston Cougars come into Provo, and they're a team that, and actually, I feel like not enough people are talking about this game because this is a huge game. Houston, they're still trying to keep pace right there with Arizona, right? Because Houston only has 1 loss in conference play. Obviously, Arizona has been the crown jewel in the Big 12. And then BYU, as you just mentioned, they've been on a slide, and so they need one. They need to prove that they can beat the good teams, right? They've competed, even going back to non-conference play, where they had great effort in stores, playing UConn, but they weren't able to get it done. A team like Arizona, they were able to, right? And so then they had other opportunities versus Texas Tech, versus Kansas, and then even against a team like Oklahoma State, a team that is looking to make the NCAA tournament themselves. They just haven't been able to get it done. And so the thing about BYU, as far as if you want to talk about tiers, I would say, look, your title contenders, as far as even with the Big 12 or to even national champions, I would go, of course, Arizona. Starts with Arizona, Houston, and then if you want to talk about Iowa State, man, they lost 2 straight games, and I feel like they kind of floated underneath the radar, but they've won 3 out of their last 4 games by 30 points. They are a very good team, and I'm interested to see if they can continue down that path, and if maybe Arizona does as well. That end of the year game, that could maybe be one of the games of the conference. But as far as going back to BYU, it's they've gotten to some slow starts. They're, as we've all kind of have noticed, they're a second half team, but you have to be able to put it together for 40 minutes, right? And if you're able to in spurts, maybe a game here or there, maybe to make a push, that's great. But in order to win this league, you have to be consistent. They're not able to get it done. People want to talk about that game they had against Arizona and like the game they were able to come back, but realistically, the Wildcats were up for a majority of that game. And if the Wildcats didn't trick that off, they would have won by double digits. So I haven't liked what I've seen from BYU lately. But the thing is, they're not going to win the conference. They'll get to the tournament. The big joker that they will have is they will always have more than likely the best player on the court. And in March, that can take you a long way. In addition to that, they also have, as you guys saw, Richie Saunders, a guy who can explode for 30 points. He's a veteran. He's an experienced senior. And so once again, if you're BYU, it's not so much about winning the Big 12 because you're not going to do that, but how can you start playing your best basketball like a team like Kansas is doing? To a team like Kansas who didn't get off to as great of a start, but now they look really scary, and so they'll have some opportunities themselves. So BYU, they certainly need to start piecing some things together. They want to ultimately get to their goal of getting to a Final Four.
Now, Arizona did play BYU recently, and that was a big-time marquee matchup. But Arizona was also able to frustrate AJ Dybantsa. Now, he puts up 24. Now, it's an off night for AJ Dybantsa to put up 24. That's a crazy statement on its own. But in your opinion, how was Arizona able to shut down AJ last time out? And do you think that could get replicated in their rematch in Tucson?
Well, we'll see on that. I think as far as AJ goes, it's all hands on deck. The thing about Arizona, you guys have so many great defenders, and you guys can throw him different looks. And so that's why I'm actually interested to see how Houston will defend him, and if maybe they'll take some of what Arizona was able to do. But think about a guy like AJ. He's so talented and he's so athletically gifted. He's 6'9", and so a lot of times, he can, once he gets to his spot, he's going to shoot over you. And sometimes it's more of on AJ than it is anybody else. But obviously, Arizona did such a great job on him. And the thing is, you took away AJ, but then you allowed Richie Saunders to get loose. So that's the thing about BYU. Kind of have to pick your poison. And so the next time these two match up, will Rob Wright III have a little bit of a better game, right? That's something else that I'll be looking for as well. But obviously, as you mentioned, Arizona did such a great job on AJ that night.
Now, we've talked a little bit about some of these other teams at the top, and you've given, I think, some hints at who you might answer for this question. But who, in your opinion, who is Arizona's biggest threat for the Big 12 regular season title?
I think right now I'd say Houston because they're the only team with 1 loss. As far as if they line it up, I'd probably say Iowa State as well too. The issue is Iowa State has 2 losses, and so they really don't have much margin of error. Because at some point, I do think that Arizona is going to drop a game, and there's no harm in that. It is the Big 12, and so obviously their schedule gets much tougher. And even with Oklahoma State, I don't expect them to have any trouble with the Cowboys at home at the McKell Center. But they're a team that you can't look over. Anthony Roy is a talented guard. If you look at what he did against BYU, he went band for band with AJ Dybantsa, and so Oklahoma State, they have a talented group there. But as you guys know, you're approaching a stretch here where you'll play 4 straight ranked opponents, and so it's going to get tough. And so if Arizona drops, I think Iowa State could have their chance. And then same thing with Houston, and so all these teams will have to play each other. Arizona still has to play Kansas, and that big game on Monday night. Could that maybe be their first loss at Allen Fieldhouse? So I would probably say Iowa State and Houston are the 2 biggest threats if you're a Wildcats fan.
Now, there is also a ton of guard talent at the top of the Big 12 right now. But one of the least discussed guards in this conference is Jaden Bradley. I mean, maybe a little bit less so now that he's been hooping for the better part of a couple months now. But you also talked to Jaden at Big 12 Media Day. What are your thoughts watching him on his revenge tour this season, making sure people remember his name?
Yeah, I love Jaden Bradley in his game, man. And I've said it before, and I'm not the only person who said this before, but he reminds me a lot of Jamal Shead. And so for me, I actually cover Jamal. So, and I think the issue with Jaden as far as like being maybe as well known as some other point guards, it kind of ties together with Jamal is you can't look at just the stats, because his value and his impact on the game goes so much beyond that. If you look at what Jamal Shead did when he won Big 12 Player of the Year, I think he only averaged like 12 and it was 12 and 8, but he was also the Defensive Player of the Year as well. You look at what he was able to do as far as leading the Houston Cougars to a conference championship there as well. He was really the engine and the lifeblood of the team. And for me, when I look at both players, they both are great defenders. I think Jaden Bradley is one of the best perimeter defenders in the conference. Great leaders, and as I mentioned, they don't have to fill up the basket in order to make an impact on the game. However, when you need a basket, or if you need him to have a game to go out and score 20 plus points, especially on a road, or especially against an opponent where, as we just saw, on the road versus BYU, or against UConn, or against Alabama, or against UCLA, or against Florida. You see, I can keep naming them, right? Because that's just how good Jaden Bradley is. Both of those guys will be there for you. And so Jaden Bradley, maybe to begin the year wasn't getting the respect that he deserves, but now I think guys are finally starting to pay attention, and deservedly so.
Another Arizona guard that maybe flew under the radar kind of by his own fault to start the year was Brayden Burries, but he has since exploded over the last 15 to 20 games or so. Where does he fall in your mind at the top combo guards in the Big 12 or nationally? Because I feel like the Big 12 probably has some of the top combo guards in America, right? I feel like he is maybe not quite at that Darren Peterson, Kingston Fleming's top level, but I feel like he's right there, right under them. Do you agree? And where do you think he falls in that national hierarchy of combo guards?
Yeah, I think Brayden Burries, he's certainly been able to turn it on. And as I mentioned to somebody else before, I think he's really what has helped unlock this Arizona Wildcats team with his scoring prowess on perimeter. But one of the things that stands out to me when I watch Brayden Burries, he's obviously he can shoot it, but he's great in transition. Like when he gets it, and here's the thing too, he doesn't get a lot of credit for. As a guard, he rebounds very, very well. So he can grab a board and he's pushing it down the floor and he's putting his head down. He's trying to get to the rim. He likes contact and he will finish. Sometimes you might want to clean up some of the decision making on the break, but overall he's really good in transition. And so between he and Jaden Bradley, they make up one of the best backcourts in the country. As far as the hierarchy goes, I don't have a list in front of me, but he's certainly near the top. And so the thing is, as far as it's, with the Arizona Wildcats, it's not so much about the individuals, as you guys know. It's just you guys are so well balanced. We just talk about the backcourt, and then go to the front court, and then go to the bench with Tobe Awaka and his value that he brings. Look at the Arizona State game where he had a calm 13 points off the bench. I love his game. Another guy who I really like is Mo Krivas. And so I was watching the game against Arizona State, and I'm gonna put out some clips. But if you look at the defensive impact that he made, I mean, the Sun Devils, they just struggled. They have, and this is coming from a Sun Devil myself, they've struggled all season. But particularly against Arizona in Tempe, he was such a great rim protector for them. So as far as Brayden Burries goes, a great player. He really fits this team very well. But Arizona Wildcats as a whole, such a great team.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple guards there, Brayden Burries, Jaden Bradley. I want to talk about another Arizona guard and another bench player as well. You had a chance to talk to Arizona head coach Tommy Lloyd about the decision to redshirt one Bryce James. Now, could you provide us any sort of insight from that conversation that you learned from talking to Coach Lloyd about maybe the development plan for one Bryce James and just what his future might hold?
Well, I imagine anybody who's tuning in to you guys, and you guys in Tucson, you guys have been very well aware that Bryce James was always going to redshirt this year. This is not necessarily any new news, but I was curious though, since he has been on the back burner, like what does that look like in his development process? And here's the thing: when you are competing and practicing every single day against the top team in the country, as we've seen so far against the Arizona Wildcats, naturally you have no choice but to get better, right? When you have a guy like Jaden Bradley who's taking you underneath his wing, as a guard, or a guy like Brayden Burries, right? And then offensively, you have to compete against Mo Crevis, right, in the paint, or Toby Awaka. Like that naturally is going to bring the best out of you. And talking to Tommy Lloyd about it, he pretty much echoed the same sentiments. And so it was really cool to kind of get his perspective on that. And I'm interested to see to see his development actually on the court. But he did say something that I thought was interesting, was that he expects him to make an impact sooner rather than later. Obviously, it won't be this season, but maybe next year, in his redshirt freshman season, could he make an impact on this Arizona Wildcats team? We'll see when that time comes.
You read our mind. That was gonna be my follow-up question, because that also had my ears turn up as well when he said in the near future, and obviously if he's redshirting, that can't be this year. So how near in the future, Tommy Lloyd? And my next question to you is, do you think he'll ever actually contribute at Arizona, or do you think he'll end up transferring somewhere else if you had to rub the crystal ball?
Honestly, man, I don't want to tell you something that I don't believe in, because I just don't know. I just don't know. He might like it there, right? Like he might love it in Tucson. And that's the thing. It's like nowadays in the transfer portal, guys are always looking to move. A guy like himself, like he doesn't have to, right? Like he's in a good situation there. The question is more so, can he elevate himself enough to earn a spot on the floor? And if he can't contribute, obviously Tommy Lloyd is going to certainly give him that chance. Or maybe he realizes that, if I want a chance to really actually get on the floor and compete in games, I might have to go somewhere else. And it might just be, as far as math and some of the talent that, obviously Arizona continues to bring in year after year. But we'll have to kind of wait and see on that. I don't want to sit here and tell you guys like, yeah, he will, or yeah, he won't, because I don't know. But I certainly am as interested as just about everybody else.
That's certainly fair, because when you look at a player like Bryce, it feels like he has the prototype to contribute at a school like Arizona, 3-and-D kind of guy, high IQ, not going to do too much on the ball, but he also has a lot to go left to get to specifically that defense part. He has the three-point part, but the defense and the physicality of the Big 12, he picked a beast of a conference to come redshirt in. This is not the ACC. This is not some of these other conferences where it's a little bit easier to come in as a freshman and kind of bump and grind with some of the bigs. You got Toby Awaka on the other side. Brayden Burries is a big physical guard, but when, I forget who asked the question, but he was asked what his welcome to the Big 12 moment is, and he said, I'm pretty sure day one of practice, Toby Awaka did one of these to me, and I went flying across the gym, and I was like, yeah, this is different levels. So Bryce has to get to that point, I feel like, but he does have the prototype to eventually contribute at Arizona. You mentioned that you are a Cronkite grad, Arizona State Sun Devil. Boo, whatever, forks down, the whole thing. But I got to ask your thoughts on Bobby Hurley. Are we Bobby forever, gang? Is that what's happening?
No. I'm not going to say that. I think, if we're being candid here, I think the Arizona State Sun Devils will play out this season, and then the two will go their separate ways. And the writing has been on the wall for that, even going into the season, right? When you rarely see where a coach goes into the final year of his deal. And obviously it hasn't worked out here. And look, you even look at some of the comments he's made, where it's been very interesting to where it's like, is he quitting on the team with some of the verbiage he's used, for him to come out and say flatly, I failed, and just the overall demeanor. And I really like Bobby as a person. I've got a chance to really get to know him. We actually came to Arizona State together. But it just hasn't worked out over the past few years. And so I remember when I first got there, he really revitalized the program at the time. It just brought a certain energy. Obviously, Arizona State didn't go on to any Sweet 16s or anything super, super special, but there was an aura in the arena at the time. You had Remy Martin, you had Lucas Dort, Zion Cheatham. They beat Kansas in back-to-back years. They went to Allen Fieldhouse, Cody Justice. But those days are long gone now. And so this is a what have you done for me lately type of NIL era that we are in. And so, whether it's, getting the talent and retaining it, because, look at a guy like Jaden Quainance, and he was a big time recruit. And here he is, in a completely different conference, on a completely different team. Josan Sanin, who's now at St. John's. These are guys who were heavily recruited and it just didn't work out, and so now, I really like Mo Odom and his game. He's really fun, but realistically, if you're going to be in the Big 12, you got to have the horses to compete, and Arizona State simply does not have that. They gave Arizona a good scare for the first 20 minutes of the game in both games, and then reality set in, and Arizona continues to show, whether I like it or not as a Sun Devil, that it's levels. And so right now, Bobby Hurley has not met the level, and so at this point, it probably is just trending towards that direction to where the Sun Devils will more than likely be looking for a new coach next year.
Sounds like Chancellor is not a part of our #BobbyForever movement, Kevin.
We lost a soldier in this movement.
Listen, if you want to donate to the NIL and get in one of the top recruits, then look, you said it, not me. It's all good.
Now, look, Bobby Hurley is not the only coach in this conference letting the comments fly, right? We had Cincinnati head coach Wes Miller last night walk over to some fans and say, "You deserve to be frustrated. I'm sorry. I apologize." You got Kelvin Sampson coming out saying, "We're poor. We've been poor. We're going to continue to be poor in perpetuity until y'all donate." What do you make of these comments, specifically from Kelvin Sampson? Because I know you are based in that Houston area. Talk to Kelvin a lot. What do you make of that and just some of the overall weird vibes going on with these coaches across the country?
Well, as far as Kelvin goes, I was actually at that press conference. So I was at the UCF Houston game, and I was there, in the presser when he said it, and I definitely perked up. And the thing about Kelvin is Kelvin obviously is a smart guy. Kelvin is one of the few coaches. I'd probably say Kelvin, and then Bobby Hurley's brother, Danny Hurley over there at UConn, and maybe Bill Self. When those guys talk, everybody listens, right? And so whether it's his overall opinion on the state of college basketball, maybe the future, where it's going, to things just in-house with Houston, that was they beat the brakes off UCF. That wasn't the question. It kind of just came out. And so I think that was intentional. And listen, what I can say is this. If you're the University of Houston, a team that has turned into one of the premier programs in not just the Big 12, but we're talking about college basketball, in order to keep that up, it costs money. Right, in order to keep the talent in. Look, they brought in 3 5-stars last year: Isaiah Harwell, Kingston Flemings, and Chris Sinak Jr., who 2 guys who will be potentially lottery picks this year. It costs money, and so obviously the Houston football team, they did pretty well this season, but they know kind of their bread and butter, at least for the past few years, has been that basketball program, and so unfortunately it is an arms race, and so. Houston isn't, a school like, some of the other top programs where they just have a bunch of cash laying around. And so I think really what that was a call to action to not just administration, but also call to action to fans, to where it's like, hey, if we want to keep this thing rolling, obviously as a coach, I'm going to do everything I can to as well. But at the end of the day, while these guys really like coming to play here at Houston, they like winning a bunch of games and all that great stuff. At the end of the day, the question does remain, okay, cool. What is that bag looking like? And so, once again, if you want some of these players, you're going to have to pay for it. And so, look, it's not even a secret. Cole Pete was a guy who the Houston Cougars had high interest in. I was even had been told that it was down to potentially Chris or Cole at the time. And one maybe made the decision before the other. And so they were able to move on that. How interesting would have been to maybe see Cole Pete in a Houston Cougar uniform.
Thank goodness for Chris Sinak's decision making. Am I right, Damon Dog? My goodness.
Shuddering.
Look, same thing too. Kingston Flemings, he actually has said multiple times it was actually between Houston and Texas Tech. How good would Kingston Flemings be with Christian Anderson, JT
Toppin? My lord, oh my lord.
That's a national championship, right? So at the end of the day, the point is, with these guys coming into college, it costs money. And so somebody's got to pony up, whether it's the fans or the administration, or as you just said, man, you're willing to donate to ASU's NIL fund, and it's greatly appreciated. We appreciate you for that, man.
I'm interpreting that Kelvin Sampson comment as pass some of that Keyshawn Henderson money. How the hell did they get the #1 recruit in the country for Houston football? Because if I'm Kelvin Sampson, I'm sick.
Somebody found that really funny in the back. It's like, man, Houston a broke program over there, huh? I think it certainly helps with Henderson. He's from the Houston area, and so I think it's an opportunity to potentially do something special here in Houston, in his hometown. But realistically, guys, okay, you sign as a high school recruit, so what? Right? Because if Ohio State comes knocking, and not that Ohio State was looking before, but one wrong thing you don't like, and then you realize I can get money over here, and it feels like I imagine the amount continues to go up every single year. You'll leave, right? We even see it within conference. You look at Brennan Sorsby going from Cincinnati to Texas Tech. Obviously, the Red Raiders have much more money, or even look with the Sun Devils, Sam Levitt leaving to go to LSU, and it's tough to see if we're having a general conversation about like NIL and the state of college sports at this point. It is tough to see a guy like Sam who had such a great career at ASU, leads him to a conference championship, goes to the playoffs, and then it ended the way it did, and now it's like not that he can't leave. Look, man, do what's best for you, but the way it ended just felt kind of weird. And now, in a way, it feels like you kind of salted away some of the great will that you built there. And so it's like, yeah, you go to LSU, but if you don't win them a championship, they're gonna bring in the next person, and you'll never be Joe Burrow. So it's just like just an overall conversation about college sports now. Just the way things are going, it's kind of tough to see. But then you have other cases where, like, you look at like a guy like Caleb Love, who came into Arizona and he's been fully embraced and he was able to do some great things here. So it's some give and take, but overall, it has been kind of tough to see.
Chancellor, thank you so much for popping on with us today. Been very generous with your time, talking some Big 12 hoops and obviously some Big 12 big picture stuff because he is a Big 12 connoisseur himself. Chancellor Johnson, what do you want to shout out? What are you doing coming up that you want people to know about? I know you just did that interview with Tommy Lloyd. Everyone should go check that out on your page as well. But what do you want to shout out?
Yeah, just working on some different things, man, as far as creating content for the conference. As I mentioned, I work for the Big 12 and creating content for them. And so right now, I talked about last week, I'm really interested to see, man, who gets these honors because the Big 12 is such a deep league in talent. You can make the argument that Arizona deserves 3 players, right? I'd say probably Jaden Bradley and Brayden Burries have been on it, but Mo Krivas has played really well. And so trying to decipher between that. But I'm always creating content. You can see it on Chancellor TV, on all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And, man, just let me know when whenever you donate to the NIL fund. I can send you the link. If you want that, just let me know.
That's crazy. I think my DMs, that new pin feature, I forgot my pin. I don't know if I can get back in to access that link, but I don't know. Maybe you can send it to Saul and maybe he'll send it to me. But,
yeah. Tell you what, send me a note. I'll send it to you directly. It's all good. I got you.
I need some legal framework in here that says that Bobby Hurley will be the coach in 2026 and beyond in order for this donation to be fully fledged through. So we'll work on this off air, Chancellor, but we appreciate you, my man, popping on with us, talking a little bit of Big 12 ball with us, and we look forward to talking to you in the future.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
Shout out Chancellor Johnson. Again, you can follow him at Chancellor TV on Twitter, and he's got a lot of great work, great, broadcast journalism pieces, big J journalism going on at Chancellor TV Twitter right there. Not what a couple, Joe Schmoes like me and Kevin are giving you on a daily basis.
And he's got great access over there at the Big 12 as well. Like he did interviews with pretty much everybody at Big 12 Media Day to start the year. So if you haven't seen what he did with Tommy Lloyd, haven't seen what he did with Jaden Bradley, go check out those interviews. Chancellor's doing some great stuff.
Meanwhile,
even though he went to Cronkite, we're gonna ignore that part.
I'm sitting here messaging Ivan Karchenkov on our DSs being like, hey bro, when are you gonna come back on the podcast? So that's, I guess, a little bit different level of trying to obtain interviews between someone that works for the Big 12 and someone who works for PHNX Sports over here. But we got to hit our first break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. So please drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel on our road to 50K, drink your water, and do not go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
I recently, Damon, caused a small leak in my home. This is a true fact. And if I need to repair it myself, I know the Window Depot is the place I'm going to go because now is the perfect time to kick off your home renovation projects. Hopefully not a home repair project like mine. And that they've been serving Arizona since early 2000 and 2002. That's pretty much the entirety of my life. Window Depot has been serving Arizona. They have contractors and homeowners that swear by the Window Depot because of their in-stock and their quality of their stock. Visit thewindowdepot.com to get started on your next project because it's Arizona made and locally trusted with over 7 locations across the entire state and windows proudly manufactured here in Arizona. In fact, they're manufactured in Tucson, Damon. So if you want to support a Tucson operation, the Window Depot is the way to go. Stop by one of their 7 locations and see for yourself why they are more than just a window store.
Shout out our friends over at Window Depot. Of course, I want to tell you guys, of course, about our presenting sponsor, Branded Bills. We always sponsoring this podcast. Kevin and Damon always rocking some Branded Bills on the AZ Wildcats pod, and for good reason. The most comfortable and most stylish headwear in the game right now in the Big 26. You're going to want to be rocking some Branded Bills because I'm telling you, these are the freshest Arizona Wildcats caps in the game, as well as if you just want some custom apparel for a business that you're promoting, maybe a softball team, a charity of choice, you name it, the best place to go to is Branded Bills because they're going to help you get custom apparel like these PHNX sports hats that Kevin and I are both rocking today. We got 2 of these up on our All City network locker, and you guys can go buy them for yourselves. But of course, head on over to brandedbills.com to check out that campus collection. BBPHNX, it's going to get you 15% off your first order. Again, that's over at brandedbills.com and use promo code BBPHNX for 15% off.
Shout out to Chancellor Johnson. Shout out to Branded Bills. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Please, like Damon said, leave a like on this video. Subscribe to this channel because we are less than 150 subs away from 50K. And I hear that the pizza party, Damon, is not dead.
Wow.
Rumor on the street, per Derek in the Slack right now, saying technically the pizza party's still alive. Maybe they extended it to where if we can get 50K by Super Bowl kickoff. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, please help us get a pizza party. It's the least you could do. It's like 2 clicks.
Boys. Help feed your boys.
Go out of full screen, 1 click. Rotate phone, 2nd movement, 3rd movement, click subscribe. That easy. It's that easy. Simple it is. But yeah, leave a like, subscribe. Me and Damon previewing Oklahoma State. Because I know we have Kansas coming up. We got Houston coming up. We got all types of massive games coming up in February. But we cannot look ahead too far because Oklahoma State is dangerous. The Cowboys will get you at the paint. Ask BYU and AJ Dybantsa, Damon.
Yeah, Oklahoma State took it to BYU just, 2 days ago at this point. BYU obviously not playing their best basketball right now, but they travel to Stillwater and they lose against a team that is, really fighting for an NCAA tournament appearance here. I mean, I think Oklahoma State, they don't have maybe the conventional tournament resume that maybe some of the other top teams in the Big 12 have, but they're not out of it when it's, when you're looking at what they've accomplished so far this season, their record and some of the teams that they've beaten. I think this Oklahoma State team, definitely is going to be on the bubble when it's all said and done. We're going to be talking about them as, one of these teams that's first 4 out or last 4 in when it's selection Sunday. And I expect them to kind of be that Big 12 representative in that regard. I think UCF is now like almost catapulted to above that. Like I think UCF is solidly in the tournament. I think Oklahoma State is that first fringe team in this conference that we could be talking about. And whenever a tournament team, rolls into town, you got to take that team seriously.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And anytime you have a coach the likes of Steve Lutz, you got to take that team seriously. I know last year you and I were previewing Oklahoma State saying this team kind of stinks, but their coach actually knows what he's talking about, so maybe give him some time. And now this year, fast forward, this podcast is telling you that Oklahoma State backcourt, kind of nasty. Watch out for Oklahoma State. And now here they are sitting, like you said, in that upper C tier of the Big 12, if you're taking our word for it. But like Steve Lutz, man, he's putting together something in Oklahoma State. I'm going to give you some stats here, Damon. Let me know if this surprises you. Head coach Steve Lutz is one of just only 4 active Division I coaches with 100-plus career wins and less than 5 full seasons of experience. You want to know who else is on that list? Hubert Davis, John Shire of Duke, and one Tommy Lloyd of Arizona. So if you're talking about young or at least, lacking of long experience, up-and-coming coaches, Steve Lutz is right there at the top of the list. The man is 26-0, Damon, when scoring 81 or more points, 28-1 when scoring 80 or more. But some fun facts for Arizona fans. The man's only 7-10 on Saturdays, and Oklahoma State's 4-13 on the road under Lutz. Road game plus Saturday, I think they're cooked. But no, in all seriousness, shout out to Steve Lutz. The man is honestly one of the more underrated coaches in the conference, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely, seems as such. And somebody that you put a little bit of faith in before this season, Kevin, saying, I think Steve Lutz might be ready to turn this program around in Stillwater. And man, what a bad stretch of sports for Oklahoma State, right? When it comes to the fall off of Mike Gundy and the disastrous season in the Big 12 conference for basketball last year, but it feels like things are finally on the up and up for the Cowboys. And yeah, this is an opponent that needs to be taken seriously, although the Wildcats should have no problem handling if they play their level of basketball.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a couple more notes on Steve Lutz, just his absolute. I think I saw it in the game notes from Oklahoma State side. I think they call it, what was it, whiteboard wizardry? It sounded fire, but it's his clipboard absolutely cooking. OSU, Oklahoma State, ranks 11th nationally in baseline out-of-bounds scoring. They average 110.6 points per 100 possessions on baseline out-of-bounds plays. Synergy estimates that the Cowboys are getting roughly 6.6 points per game off of baseline out-of-bounds plays alone, and that is 7th in the country. So we're talking about coaches actually coaching out of timeouts and on these baseline out-of-bounds plays. Steve Lutz is one of the best in the country at that type of artistry specifically. He's made effective use of those timeouts, where after timeouts called by Steve Lutz, his team ranks 32nd in national offensive efficiency as well as 21st in defensive efficiency. Both marks lead the Big 12. So if you're talking about a coach that can lead his team out of a timeout to either get a bucket or get a stop, you're talking about Steve Lutz in Oklahoma State. And I think that on its own, in my opinion, says that he is one of the more underrated coaches in the Big 12, if not the most underrated coach in the Big 12. Because being able to go into timeouts, come out of timeouts, and get the desired result is a huge part of coaching. And if you still don't believe me, he has used 15 starting fives this season with 12 different Cowboys logging at least one start. And to me, that says he is actually coaching. He's actually mixing and matching his starting lineups to see what gets the best result. And here we are. They're beating BYU. They're challenging teams in the Big 12. I love what Steve Lutz is putting together. We're going to keep breaking it down. I want Damon's take on if Steve Lutz is one of the more underrated coaches in the conference. And we're going to give you their strengths and weaknesses all after this last break here on the AZ Wildcats pod. Leave a like, drink your water, don't go anywhere. I recently, Damon, caused a small leak in my home. This is a true fact. And if I need to repair it myself, I know the Window Depot is the place I'm. Damon, I've said it once. I've said it maybe, I don't know how many times I've done this, but I will continue to do it because it deserves to be done. If you've been in a serious accident causing serious injury or, heaven forbid, wrongful death, there's only one number to call, 602-783-8841, and the husband and wife law team will fight for you because doing your research is important on these types of matters. And the husband and wife law team will pop up when you do your research on serious injury and wrongful death. And why? Because they are specialists. Less than 1% of lawyers certified by the Arizona State Bar are experts and specialists in wrongful death litigation. They are. The husband and wife law team, specialists in this field, and they actually go to trial. They are trial lawyers. If your case needs to go to trial, they are ready for that smoke. They know their way around the courtroom, just like Cole Pete knows his way around the paint. So if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their website in our show notes below. Let them know the two boys on the AZ Wildcats podcast sent you.
Are you looking for a way to save money in your general everyday, day-to-day life? Then look no further than the Inner Circle Rewards membership program being offered by our friends over at Circle K. Circle K is the staple business when it comes to the great state of Arizona. There's a Circle K within a stone's throw of you, any direction that you look here in Arizona, and for good reason. It's America's thirst stop. It's Arizona's thirst stop. We're saving money not only at the gas tank, Kevin, but also inside the store with some meal deals, with some snack deals, and with all sorts of energy drink and Polar Pop deals as well. Inner Circle Rewards member program members are just saving money left and right every single day. So if you guys want to save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups at the tank, then 3 cents off per gallon every single time you fill up after that until you hit premium status, and you get 5 cents off per gallon every single time that you fill up at the tank. And all you got to do is plug in that phone number when you do so. You got to become an Inner Circle Rewards member today. It's free. It's simple. It takes 2 seconds to sign up for, and the savings are right there in front of you. If you live in Arizona and you're not an Inner Circle Rewards member yet, you're just missing out on saving some free money, guys. Join that Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply. At participating locations, visit circlek.com for details.
Look, I know the chat is doing a lot of discussion about who is and who is not an OG Wildcat fan and all this and who put us on the map and all that. I think one thing we can all agree on is Carter Bryant reps Tucson just about as good as anybody, and I direct you to go to his Twitter right now at Carter D. Bryant, where he put out a tweet about, sorry Max, free ad Friday, Baja Cafe in Tucson, where Matt Enzer said he's doing a tour of Big 12 food, pin in Tucson, Baja Cafe, trust me, where it looks like he got some sort of, biscuits and gravy situation. But
the U of A basketball family loves a little bit of Baja Cafe, man. Matt Enzer used to work for the Arizona Athletic Department as I believe the sports information director for the basketball program. And yeah, I mean, he's all about it. Sean Miller was all about it. Sean Miller was taking recruits there. Tommy's now taking recruits there. There's a few places that are like, it's like, you are walking into Arizona basketball royalty when you walk in. I think Bob Dobbs is in this list. It used to be Rincon Market before it got closed down. Like, there are just places that you will go, and if you frequent them enough, you should plan on seeing some Arizona basketball coaches, players, you name it, and Baja Cafe certainly is on that list.
All right, now let's rate Carter Bryant's order. All right, so this is another, if you're a real Tucsonan, please stand up, because Carter Bryant says, quote, best breakfast in Tucson, coyote with over easy egg, large snickerdoodle pancake with fresh strawberries. Wow. I think that order is fire. And then I want to give a shout out to Ivan Karchenkov Stan, that account on Twitter, whoever that is. They responded by saying, that's a nice big back order, Carter. No wonder you were so great with us. And I think that made me laugh inside, just calling Carter Bryant, of all people, a big back. I can appreciate that. But yeah, I think that's a great
Carter
order.
Big Back Bryant. Love it.
Carter Big Back Bryant. Shout out to him and Trey Townsend hanging out after the Spurs game as well. But
our
back
favorite.
to
we are a Trey Townsend podcast.
1,000%.
Fact.
Stamp. The only one. Damon, what do you think about my take that Steve Lutz might be the most underrated coach in the conference? Am I forgetting anyone?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think, it's a little early for a guy like Russ Hodge, right? Who I know that I think that, you're a fan of Russ Hodge, and we like the Grant McCasland kind of disciple that is Russ Hodge and what he could potentially build at West Virginia. But it feels like they're almost in their Oklahoma State last year phase. They're better than Oklahoma State last year, but it's the year before the year. And next year we will truly see if Russ Hodge is that dude or not. I think, a guy like Jamie Dixon is a pretty damn good coach.
That's a good point.
And he's never really thought about as being a really that level of coach. But also TCU hasn't really had that great of teams the last couple of seasons. So in a what have you done for me lately world, I think that you have to give more credit to a guy like Steve Lutz over a Jamie Dixon. But I think conventionally underrated, I'd probably say Jamie Dixon. But I think in terms of where it's trending in 2026, I like your answer as Steve Lutz.
Like, maybe I'm insane, but it's like Steve Lutz is one of those dudes where, like, if a major job opens up, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets poached from, like, an Oklahoma State to go coach some.
How major of a job are we talking? Because I could see him at, like an SEC program.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
Maybe not like a team that's like Kentucky, but like
if Chris Beard flops at Ole Miss.
Yeah, something like that.
I think Ole Miss would come calling like a Steve Lutz or something like that.
Yeah, like a team that might be able to offer him just a fatter paycheck to come through. I think that's entirely possible for sure.
Yes, but getting into this Steve Lutz-led team, the Oklahoma State Cowboys are certainly dangerous. They did just beat BYU. I think we all saw that matchup, and if you didn't, Anthony Roy is the name that should be on the tip of your tongue coming out of that stadium because he went off. Scored 26 against their victory against Utah, and that snapped the Cowboys' 15-game Big 12 road losing streak. So if you're talking about success on the road, not a lot of it for Oklahoma State recently, at least in conference. And then against BYU, he absolutely went off. I believe it was a career high, but he was giving everybody on BYU buckets. And if you don't think that he's going to get his against Arizona, you might be incorrect. Because I think this is like Gucci brand K-State. Now, hear me out. Because I know K-State's garbage. I know we're trying to tell you Oklahoma State's good. PJ Haggerty, no matter who he's playing, is going to get his for K-State. He's too talented on that end, and the other guys may be a little bit too easy to shut down. I think Oklahoma State is a team where, yes, their others are very good as well. You have guys like Kanye Clary, Jalen Curry, Parsa Fowler. It looks like Fala, but I was looking at the game notes. Apparently, it's Fowler. So Parsa Fowler as well. They have very compatible others with Anthony Roy. But the thing about him is you really cannot shut his water off, man. He's 98th percentile in the country in contested shots. Contested ones. And Not only that, he's 45th nationally in true shooting percentage, 53rd nationally in three-point shooting percentage. And when you combine that with that contested shooting percentage, how are you stopping that guy? You force him to the rim where he's about make or miss. He's 50-50 percentage-wise from at the rim. So if you can force him down to Mo Krivas, you might drop that down to about 5% right there. So I think this is a situation where he's going to probably drop 25-ish points, and Arizona's going to get a win. But I think if we're looking at Oklahoma State, it has to start with Anthony Roy, right?
Yeah, we know Anthony Roy is good, Kevin, but what else is good about the Oklahoma State Cowboys? Why don't we take a peek at their strengths here as a squad and just kind of see what they do well, what maybe they don't do as well. So here you have offensive aggression, guard play, bench points. Tell me more, Kevin.
Yeah, and I actually found, shout out to Oklahoma State's SID or shout out to Oklahoma State's intern, whoever is making these game notes weekly, because they are pretty comprehensive. And I think to back up my offensive aggression, guard play, and bench points perspective here, I will show you this, which is a very nice chart that was in the game notes from Oklahoma State, where they show you the D1 rankings for different categories for both teams head to head. And I think as you see, in terms of strength, they are an incredibly aggressive offense that has a really high pace, and their bench production is second best in the Big 12, 38th in the country. They are top 100 in assists. They are top 50 pretty much in field goal percentage. And then you look at that free throw makes to free throw attempts and percentage. This team is extremely efficient offensively, and they are also one of the faster paced teams in the country. This team is no stranger to offensive aggression and offensive efficiency. We brought up Anthony Roy. We brought up Kanye Clary. We brought up Jalen Curry. Those guards are absolutely outstanding, and they will get it done for Oklahoma State most of the time, hopefully not this Saturday. Kanye Clary has posted more assists than turnovers, Damon, in each of his last 19 games. It's the third longest streak in Oklahoma State history. Fun fact, Doug Gottlieb, Green Bay coach, is first and second on that list. But yeah, 5 assists per game from Kanye Clary, 4.3 assists per game from Jalen Curry, who can also shoot it as well. 13th in KenPom adjusted tempo. So they're fast, they're efficient, and they're aggressive offensively, Damon.
Very good at offense, but not so good, Kevin, on the defensive side of the ball. Let's take a peek at their weaknesses. Scoring defense, three-point defense, and giving up offensive rebounds.
Yeah, they're scoring defense, and I'll throw this chart up one more time. Yikes. 325th in the country, 15th in the Big 12. They're not very efficient at stopping teams on the defensive end. And then if you look at their rebound margin, 10th in the conference, 165th in the country in terms of offensive rebounds. Paris Fowler might be a good big, an aggressive big, kind of a bull in a china shop kind of vibe, but maybe not the best rim protector or rebounder. They do give up quite a lot of offensive rebounds on that side of the ball as well, Damon. So
not a recipe for success against the Arizona Wildcats, giving up offensive rebounds, especially when you have Tobe Awaka, Mo Krivas, Koa P, Brayden Burries, a bunch of guys that are contributing on the boards on a nightly basis. So I expect that to be a big differentiator in this one. And overall, it just feels like you have to be a much better defensive team against the Wildcats to be the first team to take them down, right? I mean, it's not gonna take it's gonna take some elite shot making, as we've talked about, but it's going to definitely take an above average defense. And I just think, when you combine that with the home court advantage and just kind of the stylistic differences here, I'm not too worried about this matchup from an Arizona Wildcats perspective.
I'm not either, especially because it's at home, right? I think a lot of people are looking at this saying, oh, it's a trap game. They just took out BYU, and you're looking ahead to KU and Houston. But they're coming to our house. If we were going to Oklahoma State, I could hear that argument a little bit more. I could walk with you a little bit further down that beach because, maintaining that momentum at home, you just beat BYU, number one team in the country coming in. I could totally see that, but that's not the case. You're going to their house. You got to get it done in McHale. And Arizona knows if they want to win the Big 12, they have to win at home. They have to win at home the rest of the way. So I don't think that Oklahoma State's going to be able to get it done, but this is not a team that I would be sleeping on. As Sam Alberts says, is that true? A 21.5 spread for the game?
I didn't realize that either. That is too big.
That is disrespectful to what Steve Lutz has been putting together. I could see it ending up that way because Arizona wears teams down and they're a second half adjustment side and all that stuff.
For sure.
That is a hefty spread. I agree with 3DMK saying it will be closer than that. But 3DMK also brought up another key point in this matchup, Damon, is that Oklahoma State will turn the ball over a lot. That was almost my third weakness for them, but I felt that the offensive rebounding against Arizona is definitely going to kill you quicker than the turnovers will, in my opinion. Pardon me. But Oklahoma State turns the ball over a bunch, and they allow a ton of fast break points a game. They allow 13.9 fast break points every game. And you know how much Arizona likes to get out and run in transition, whether it's Brayden Burries with full court passes to his bigs, or Ivan Karchenkov, or Jaden Bradley. So, yeah, this is a tough uphill battle for Oklahoma State coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, 21.5, looking at it right now. That is way too big of a spread, I think, for this one. And Oklahoma State does deserve a little bit more respect than that, albeit I think it is a good matchup, just stylistically from a Wildcats perspective. But yeah, can't wait to talk about this game tomorrow on our pregame show. Going to be live 30 minutes prior to the opening tip. And then, of course, postgame, we got 10 minutes after the final buzzer sounds in that one. Going to be an interesting matchup here from the Oklahoma State Cowboys versus the Arizona Wildcats. One game that I think does matter a lot that Chancellor actually brought up in our interview with him earlier, Kevin, is that BYU-Houston game really could play a big impact on what the Big 12 title race looks like, right? I mean, you look at BYU, lost 4 of 5, lost 3 in a row. They're at home. You don't want to lose another game, because then it starts becoming like a snowball effect, right? It feels like the buck has to stop here. They just lost a really, really big game against Oklahoma State on the road, in a game that they probably thought beforehand we should easily win this game. Now Houston, I made jokes. Arizona was their Super Bowl in Provo. Now I think Houston becomes the new Super Bowl. And if they can get the job done there, Arizona's chances of winning the Big 12 absolutely just skyrockets, right? So I guess we all have to put our BYU hats on this weekend, which feels disgusting.
Yeah,
but would go a long way in towards of helping our chances of winning this conference when it's all said and done.
AJ Dybantsa, Richie Saunders, and Rob Wright, we need you. We need you to wake up. We need you to wake up and get right so that we can win this conference together. As
we got some weird energy from our guy Brian in the chat right now.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Brian, you watch this show every day, and then you take shots at us, and then you leave comments in the chat afterwards that don't make any sense. Let's figure it out, buddy. Do you like the show? Do you hate the show? You don't have to watch if you don't want to.
It also sounds like Brian thinks we'll be upset if we beat Houston. He says we're going to best Houston, and you dumb geeks are going to blow a fuse. Why would that make me upset? Why would that make me blow a fuse? I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah, Kevin and Damon, they'd be pissed if the Arizona Wildcats continue to be undefeated. That's what we root against on
Brian
the
also
AZ
says,
Wildcats podcast.
Who cares about Houston? Brother, they have 2 losses.
I care about Houston, the team that we've never beaten one time, and Tommy Lloyd is 0-3 against, and continues to be the one team that gets in the way of our top level of success. So
they got two lottery picks coming up. I think a lot of people care about Houston. They got one of the greatest coaches in the country. Man, anyway, I'm glad we broke that down for a second. But do we have anything else before we get out of here, Damon? Pre-game, post-game tomorrow?
No, that's going to do it for us. We got pre-game, post-game tomorrow for Oklahoma State. Make sure that you guys are there for that one. Brian, we'll see you there. I look forward to whatever insult you throw our way on that one. And, of course, you can follow me at Damon Dog, D-A-W-G. You can follow my guy Kevin at KevoPost. That's K-E-V-O-P-O-S-T-S. And you can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats on all social media. Thank you so much to all of those that supported throughout the week, watched throughout the week. Means so much to us. We had the Ivan Karchenkov interview. We are continuing to roll out interviews every single week, and we're just trying to provide the best Arizona Wildcats coverage that we can for you guys. So shout out Arizona softball going up against Oklahoma today. Oklahoma State tomorrow. We're just trying to go BTA on some Oklahoma ass this weekend, Kevin. So
throw it back to the Alamo Bowl. Jackson Arnold. I know you got a sleep paralysis demon somewhere last night knowing this matchup was coming.
Arizona owns Oklahoma. Believe that. For Damon, for Kevin, for everybody here at PHNX Sports. It's been a banner week. We appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you on tomorrow's pregame show. Until then, peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. Happy birthday to Caitlin Lowe. Go get a W today.
We all silly like the mayor.